All right, all you Stu's wrestling fans out there, we got Stu's Wrestling Podcast coming up for you. This is Angry Alan Funk Wee from WCW, WWE, and TNA coming at you. You better watch Stu's Wrestling Podcast, brother, or you're going to get one of those.
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer!
I just got this feeling that I've never ever had. Who am I believing? Can you tell me again who I'm deceiving?
Welcome. It is episode 87 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast, and before we get into the episode with Doug Basham, former two-time tag team champion as part of the Basham Brothers, I just want to say a big thank you to all my listeners and viewers across all the platforms. It's been fantastic. We've been charting across the world in the Apple Wrestling charts as well. That continues amazing. This past Monday, myself and good friend Mike Angus made our commentary debut for Superstar Pro Wrestling out of Liverpool. I just want to thank Jay Apter, Dave Faulkner and Kieran Moran for giving myself and Michael the chance to showcase our skills on commentary. I had an absolutely fantastic time. It was great to go to a show, and I know the wrestlers were on the card and the guys involved with Superstar Pro, they've been waiting for so long with the COVID situation to put on a live show, and it was superb. So yeah, thank you. And without further ado, I think it's time to do an intro for Mr. Basham, former two-time WWE Tag Team Champion with Doug Basham. Doug started out in 1991 training in the business. He went on to wrestle for USWA out of Memphis. You get to hear about his time there very early on in his career. His 10-year quest to get to WWE as well. He got there. He was tag champion twice. Amazing stuff, and you'll get to hear about that. Doug was a part of JBL's cabinet on SmackDown. Him and Danny were the co-secretaries of defense. It was an amazing time. He talks about how hated JBL was and how he ran with the ball, being world champion at the time. I, for one, couldn't stand JBL and the character, so he was doing his job. And Doug talks about that and that time period in WWE. He talks about the effect Jim Cornette has had on his career. Some really good stuff there. We also hear about his time in TNA. He went to TNA for a brief period with Danny, who was then going as Damager, which was his name in OVW. Doug's career has gone full circle. He retired in 2009, but he's now back involved with Al Snow at the Wrestling Academy and OVW. He's an agent, he's a head trainer, he's also taken up a managerial role on screen. So Doug is back. It was amazing to hear this story. I've enjoyed having him on. It was incredible. This is why I love what I do, having these guys on. So without further ado, my guest for episode 87 is former WWE Tag Team Champion as one half of the Basham Brothers, Doug Basham. Enjoy. My guest all the way from Indiana in the good old USWA on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today is former two-time WWE Tag Team Champion as one half of the Basham Brothers. It is Doug Basham all the way from Indiana today. Such an honour to have you on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, pal. I'm glad to be here.
I think first things first, I'd like to talk to you about your start in pro wrestling. Now, when I was doing my research, you went into wrestling in 1993, is that right?
I believe that sounds about right. That's when I started with USWA, but I started training, I think, in 92, late 91, 92. Danny Davis, my uncle Danny Davis, opened a wrestling school.
I didn't know that until I went in. I did not know you were related until I read up, did a bit of background, you know?
Now, some people get him confused with the referee. He was not the referee, Danny Davis. He was the wrestler, one of the Nightmares, one of the great tag teams of old school days. And
I was guilty of thinking it was referee talent Danny Davis as well. I'll hold my hand up until years later. As I hold on a minute, total different guy. So yeah, man. How was it in USWA? Starting out your first matches, man?
I'll tell you what, I was about 22, I think, when I got my first gig there working for a company, a big time company. And I grew up watching a lot of the guys, a lot of the stars that were on the show, like Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher and Jeff Jarrett and other people like Dutch Mantell, Sid Vicious. And so growing up, I can only imagine whenever you are growing up watching these guys on TV and then you're finally there actually working with them. It's a little, and I was young. I was only like 22. So I was a little starstruck and I was like, oh man, so wow. So, and I was scrawny, man. I was skinny. Had no business actually being there yet because of my body size, my weight, but my mind was pretty good. I knew what to do. But first time there in Memphis, USWA, it was quite an experience, quite a learning experience.
Did you relocate to Memphis or did you just travel in?
Travel. It was you make sure you have a good car and you're booked in a place maybe 6 hours away and you take off, make sure you get there on time.
Where did you go after USWA? Where were you wrestling?
USWA, I hit the indie scene and did the indies over here, and then worked with Danny. He started his own little shows, called them the Future Stars of Tomorrow, and then he developed Ohio Valley Wrestling. We created that, and I pretty much stayed and was one of the main storylines and main stars there for Ohio Valley Wrestling, but also traveled and did some indies up on the East Coast mainly.
Who was in and around the indies at that time? Any names, any standout names, any names that we got on to see latterly?
Steve Carino. Oh man, who all was on the indie scene back then? Shane Twins. A whole slew of names that, you put me on the spot. So, you put somebody on the spot, you can never think, but then later on I'll have Tourette's and start going, bah, 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 bah. I'll start naming off names.
maybe further along you remember as
Absolutely.
you go through the interview, man. Absolutely. I think maybe now we could segue into OVW and you go in there. I know you were there for quite a number of years. Obviously, your uncle was training you, as you've alluded to. So how was it initially with OVW and training there and wrestling for the promotion?
Man, it was great. I was very fortunate and lucky to be trained by my own uncle who took care of me. Made sure I was trained right. Didn't just take my money and say, there you go. He had further plans though for me while training me. Because I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything like that, but because I had some talent and I kind of got it. I had that it factor when it comes to wrestling. So working for Ohio Valley was a blessing in disguise. Some people think it was a curse, but it was a blessing because I got a lot of experience there. I worked with a lot of the top guys, veterans that came around, Tracy Smothers, Rip Rogers, Dutch Mantell. And I got a lot of experience from working with them when they came in, because the only way you're going to get better is if you work with someone that knows more than you and is better than you. So they really helped teach me how to tell stories in wrestling and psychology, how to do when and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that was one of the greatest things I think that I got from Ohio Valley Wrestling, working with the greats, late greats. And some of them are still around today. And then just being able to get TV, learn how to work a TV when we started our TV program, learning how to hit time cues and learning what to do for TV, learning how to work hard camera, learning where cameras are. So it's just a lot of experience. I got a lot of experience in Ohio Valley Wrestling while I was there. And that was before Ohio Valley became the developmental territory for the WWE. So I had all this experience doing TVs before WWE and Jim Cornette all came into Ohio Valley Wrestling. So I was ahead of the game.
It's just funny you mentioned Jim Cornette because that was going to be the next question. Now I'm a big fan. I know the guy splits opinion, but I love the old school ideals that he still sticks to today. I know he has his thoughts on modern wrestling. I like modern wrestling too. I'm a big proponent of old school. But yeah, my editor for this show, Chris Dutton, said, please will you ask Doug about Jim Cornette and his experiences of Jim Cornette at OVW, because I'm sure there's many stories.
Oh, there's a ton of stories about Jim Cornette, but I've huge, massive respect for Jim Cornette. When he came in with the developmental territory, he would teach us how to do promos because he's a promo king of the world. He can go for days and not even take a breath. And also writing TVs, he's brilliant when it comes to writing storylines, and telling stories and getting from point A to point Z. And then filling everything in between. I mean, the man was just brilliant, genius, and working working with Jim Cornette at Ohio Valley Wrestling and putting on the TV show. That was getting that experience. Working with someone like that was pivotal in my career. That helped shape who I was and helped me have developed that mind of why you do this, and this is why you do this to get here. It was great experience moving from one point to the next in my career. And Jim Cornette, brilliant mind. You want to know a little about him? He's a brilliant mind. He is old school, and he likes things his way. But he was also open to some ideas. If you had some ideas, and most of the time our ideas were not that good because we didn't know how to do what he did. But he was always open, and he would write TVs and write promo stuff for you and say, here's what I want you to say. Here's the hot points, put it in your own words. So he gave us that freedom to go and do because, anytime you recite something on a piece of paper, it sounds like you're reading it. It's, as opposed to putting it in your own words and getting across his point. But as long as you got across his point, he was happy, and he'd give you opportunity after opportunity. And if you did really well, he'd just keep giving them to you. So Jim Cornette was 2 thumbs up, man. He was great. I learned a lot from him too.
What a basis for you, previous to getting to SmackDown, getting to the main roster. Also, with Cornette, I just can't believe how he can remember so much stuff, the history of the business, how he can just recount stuff on his podcast. He's just the mind, and everything he can recount is incredible.
Oh yeah, I listen to his podcast too when I'm driving down the road for what work and stuff I'm doing today. It's one, it's entertaining, and 2, it brings back memories, and then 3, to hear his point of view on why he did what he did and why, and then to hear him do his opinions on things for today. It's just entertaining. I love it, man. I think it's great.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you now about, I know I was reading you had some tryout matches before going on to the main roster at SmackDown. So yeah, how were the tryouts and going up from developmental to take people on?
The thing that OVW, Danny, Jimmy, another individual by the name of Rip Rogers, made sure that I was over prepared. So when I got to, I spent 10 years in OVW before I got those tryouts and got that opportunity. Sometimes it takes people 10 years. Sometimes it takes people 10 days, just depends. But when I got there, I had all the experience. I had all the knowledge. I had everything I needed to stay there. So some people, they don't have enough. They can get there, but they can't stay there. They're just a memory. They're a wink of an eye. So when I had my tryout matches and I moved up and was getting looked at, I was over prepared. I was ready. I knocked it out of the park.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I think so. Yeah, be perfect now to talk about yourself and Danny. You went as Damager in developmental, tagging, coming together as the Basham Brothers, and I remember Shaniqua being with you as valet manager too. I wouldn't want to have crossed her. I probably wouldn't have wanted to cross her now as well. But yeah, how was that dynamic, having a manager and a valet going up to the main roster? Was there a lot of pressure, or were you quite calm and cool and collected with going up? Nothing shook us at all. We were, like I said, when me and Danny, we had a lot of time in OVW together, working together, trained by the same guys, same mindset, same philosophy. So and we worked with managers down in OVW, so that was no strange thing for us as well. But working with Shaniqua being green, we were astute in being able to work with someone that's green and help them, guide them, and lead them in what we needed to do and tell them the whys we're doing. So working with Linda,
It was easy, and she was just such a spectacle to look at. I mean, she was, daggone, she was near 6 foot tall. She was an athletic individual who played basketball at Rutgers, I believe. She was in phenomenal shape. I mean, it's been a long time since I think there's been a woman on WWE at that time that looked like her. I think China may have been it, and then she comes out and she's this big Amazon looking woman that's big and mean looking. And if Danny and I would have done things a little bit differently with her, I think that the Basham brothers with Shaniqua would have stayed around a little longer. I think we kind of, I'm not afraid to say it now. I think we messed up in our thinking a little bit. But if we would have worked and used her in a different way and put her a little bit more on, because she was the vocal point of our tag team, and we wanted to be the vocal point of our tag team. So that could have been a little bit of a demise. Actually, not even could have been. That was more of the demise of that tag team and that whole the trio. And I think they saw that, so they just kind of split us up. But if I had it all to do over again, things would have been done totally different. And Linda would have been put a little bit more. She would have been put way up here and more of the focus factor of that tag team. We would have made a lot more money. It's probably been there a lot longer. So, hey, you make mistakes and you learn,
Cool insight that, and that'll be good for people in, going into the business who listen to this show and watch this show. So yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you talking about that. The tag team, the first tag team run, beating Eddie and Chavo. How was that getting that first title run on SmackDown?
Dream come true. I mean, whenever I had some goals and had some dreams that I wanted to achieve in wrestling when I started. One is I wanted to work for the WWE. I wanted to be at the time it was WWF, but everybody knows WWE, get the F out. So it's WWE. I wanted to work for Vince. So I achieved that goal. Second goal was I wanted to wear gold. I wanted to be a champion. Achieved that goal. Third was I wanted to be in a WrestleMania, and I achieved that goal. So I achieved everything I wanted to achieve in wrestling, other than having a singles career. But winning the titles, tag titles, from the championship titles from Los Guerreros, Eddie and Chavo, couldn't have been even more a dream come true, because I would growing up, I watched Eddie. And I wanted to work like Eddie, and because the way he would wrestle and the way he would perform in the ring and be entertainment. So, and Eddie and I became really good friends, during this, when meeting him. But winning them both, winning the titles for the first time, it was just like it was in awe. It's like me and Danny looked at each other, and I was like, Danny. we did it. We're here. Yeah. We're here. Our names are etched in wrestling. And then when we won the titles and we came back through the walkway before we go to the ring, come back, we stood there and waited for Eddie and Chavo. And Eddie and Chavo came back, and everybody gave each other hugs. We said good job, because I think the match was stellar. It was top notch match. I give it 5 stars. And then Eddie said, "Congratulations, boys! It's your turn now. Represent them well." And then he patted on the shoulders like that, and he walked off. So I was just like, wow.
SmackDown was the show at that point as well. The rating, in terms of ratings as well. When you look, like I said to you, I was at the house shows. The roster was just incredible, and it was testament to all you guys. Beating Raw as well. I remember seeing the ratings over here when we used to get them. And just amazing. How was that, knowing that you were beating Raw, which was meant to be the A show of the company?
Oh, it was awesome. Competition's always good, no matter what you do and what you're doing. And beating them in ratings was just like, because SmackDown was supposed to be the, pardon my pun or term, the redheaded stepchild. It was the second show. It wasn't Vince's creation. It was kind of like obviously it was Vince's creation, but his original was Raw, and that was his baby because it was live. And work at that time, ratings were so good. I think JBL was having that run as champion, and everybody just hated him. He did such a good job being a heel, and just getting people to hate him. And John Cena chased him. Eddie chased all these baby faces chasing him. And he did a good job hanging on to that, telling all the storylines he was in with Eddie and Taker and Big Show and then Cena. And then even when JBL was the champion, the house show attendance was going up. People wanted to, because, it was entertaining. We had a good roster. We had a lot of good people in there. But kudos to the top guys. Kudos to the whole roster, everybody in SmackDown, but extra kudos to the top guys at that time, really bringing in the house, bringing in people to come to shows.
How was the cabinet, JBL's cabinet, and you being part of that faction, being the co-secretaries of defense, yourself and Danny? How was that pitched to you?
Well, me and Danny, if you guys remember that, the Tough Enough.
Yeah.
Tough Enough, I think it was season 3 or 4, I can't remember, where Danny and I had to defend that flag in the corner. And if anybody got past that flag and got to, they would win that competition. So before the whole show ever started, we all, during, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the day, we all get up in the ring and walk through the segment and stuff like that. And this is what's going to happen. Al Snow's there. And Vince is up in the ring, and then the kids came down and we're standing outside the ring. And then we were just kind of walking through how it would work. And it was it was real. That whole thing was real. It was real. There was nothing pre-planned about it other than just how they would get in the ring. And that was it. So Vince was up there with me and Danny after the kids had went back to do whatever they were doing, and Al left. So it was just me, Danny, Vince. I think there may have been Schimmel in the ring or somebody. Vince comes up to me and Danny and goes, "Now, boys, short of killing anybody, now we don't want to put nobody in the hospital." He goes, "But you see that flag over there? It's going to be right there. You see that turnbuckle that it's got that WW on it?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "That's what you're representing tonight." And he hit us on the shoulders. And we went, "Oh man, we just been put on notice." So we were like, and we looked at each other, and me and Danny, we said, "Nobody's even coming close to that flag." We knew what to do. We knew he said short of killing somebody. So we knew what to do. And we did it. None of those kids got past us, but man, some of them were super strong. And it was such, because it was so energy exerting, man, it really wore us out. And that's the only reason Daniel Puder, if you guys go back and watch this again, the only reason Daniel Puder got as close as he did was because our arms were like noodles, our legs, we were spent. And I think Danny had him in a chokehold to slow him down, and I grabbed a hold of his ankles and was just trying, give him so he wouldn't go anywhere. And we did that to all the guys, all those kids up there anyway. But yeah, that's the only reason Daniel Puder got as close as he did, is because we were spent.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I think maybe to extend on, you spoke about Vince there. How were the dealings with Vince? Any stories about Vince as a boss? Stuff he spoke to you about?
Oh man, he was just like any other promoter out there. He was, gave you opportunities. You either take advantage of it or you didn't. Of course, there's quite a few stories about Vince that I was a part of, but not being one of the top guys yet in the company, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with him, just other than backstage meetings where he got everybody together. I did go to him one time. I was going to pitch an idea, and I went and trained with this magician. I lived in Tampa, Florida at the time, and I went and trained with this magician, magic guy. So I was going to do some sort of a magic character, but I had to learn how to do magic. And that stuff is hard. It was not easy. So I trained about 7 months with this magician down in Florida named Daniel Lieb, I think his name was. Lieb, can't remember. It's been so long ago. He was really good and made things look so easy. And the one thing that I took to was like money magic. I really like, make money just appear out of anywhere and make dollar bills and $100 bills. So I learned this one trick where I could turn dollar bills into $100 bills. And I went in there, I was going to show Vince some of this trick, what I could do. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I was just going to show him. So I went in there and asked the boss, you got a $100 bill? Which I didn't think he would say yes. And he's just like, okay. And he gave him $100. He pulled out a $100 bill, and I was like, it was supposed to be $1, not $100. So I took that $100 bill and I put it in my pocket. And he goes, is that the trick? Or what are you doing? I said, no, because, before that, I opened my wallet and like flames came out, and I went, oh. And I blew it out like that. And I said, man, on fire and whatever. And I'm like, dang it, I burnt all my money, boss. Do you have a $100 bill? That's why I asked for the $100 bill. And he's like, yeah. And he gave me a $100 bill. And I'm like, dang it, he wasn't supposed to do that. So I just put it in my pocket and said, thank you. And I pulled out and said, I'll use this one over here. He just kind of looks at me like, okay, where's he going with this? So I took out the trick. I showed him the trick, and where I turned the money into turn $1 bills into $100 bills, and just like that. And then I turned it back into $1 bills, and I took a dollar bill and I handed it back to him and said, thanks, boss. And went to go walk out, and he goes, oh, hold on. He goes, there's some zeros missing. So, okay, here you go. There you go. So I took it out back and I folded it up, and I had the other $100 bill in my hand. I folded it up and I took it and folded it out, and there was this $100 bill. There you go, boss. There's your $100 bill. So it was pretty cool. So it's a little bit of magic and trick. It never came to fruition, but because I would have ruined it anyway, but because I wasn't that good at it. So that's some interaction with Vince. He would listen to you if you had some ideas. He would listen to you, because anything we have ideas, we bring them to him, and he can work with that. Just like any other promoter that you would work with that's doing TV, they pretty much listen to talent as well, because bring ideas. Promoters love ideas.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Now, the Basham Brothers were split up, and you were drafted to Raw, and you went on to go and do some singles. You went to do some single work. How was that, coming away from doing tagging and then going into singles and going to the other brand, as it were?
Yep, Danny what happened was Vince come up. Danny and I did that promo where we split up with JBL, and then Vince came up and told us that he was going to split us up, send one to Raw and stay one on SmackDown. Said, Danny, we're going to send you to Raw, and Doug, we're going to keep you here on SmackDown. And so it was our job to come up with some ideas. And at that point, we were ready for a singles career. Danny was ready to go have a singles run, and so was I. And then just coming up with an idea, I wasn't ready for. I didn't have an idea other than that magic idea, which was after. I started doing that after I pitched this one idea of the Bash Man, and it just tanked, because the idea I had, and they assigned a writer to me, and these writers are kids hired from college and all this other stuff that not really come from a wrestling background. So I pitched this idea to this kid. He listened and then took my idea, totally changed it around to make it something that he thought of, and it just didn't work. It didn't work at all. Totally took my idea and just threw it out and did something else with it. So kind of why my singles career didn't take off. So when I introduced it, or went out to go introduce it to Vince, he didn't get it because I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. What almost happened, nobody knows this, but and I think this is the first interview that I'm actually going to tell the story. So you're getting an exclusive.
Thank you, man.
When I was walked through this whole idea with this writer, I'm sitting down and I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't feel it. I'm not getting it. I talked to Chris Benoit, and I talked to Eddie. I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And they're totally ruined it on me. And I talked to Fit Finley as well. And I was telling Fit what I was thinking about doing. And Fit's like, well, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you just do what you think you need to do and feel it. Because what I was going to do, and all the way up until I started talking on the microphone, I was just going to go out there. If you can watch it on YouTube, my very first segment when I worked with a guy named Caprice Coleman, who did an excellent job for me, and I really appreciated that. But it just didn't didn't come across. The character didn't come across what it was supposed to be. As I was sitting in Gorilla, waiting to go out through the curtain to walk to the ring. So I go out the curtain. I'm walking down the ring. I get in the ring. I grab the microphone. And that whole time when I'm standing in Gorilla, walking down to the ring, climbing up in the ring, and then I grab the microphone. That whole time I was thinking this, and nobody knows this. I was thinking, I'm just going to trash this whole idea, and I'm going to be myself. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I'm either going to get fired or this is going to work. I'm either going to get fired or I'm going to make this work. Do I make this work or do I just do what I want to do? To just be me? So all that was going through my head the whole time I came out and walked up, and I grabbed the microphone and I did what that writer wanted to do. And I think it was the biggest mistake of it was the biggest mistake of my whole career, because that was pretty much the end of my WWE career.
And then in terms of timeline, you then went down to ECW and you were masked. You were security for Paul Heyman. How was that? How was that?
It was great being able to just get back on, back active, because I think I sat at home for a long time after that. And then they brought me and Danny in when they started ECW as Paul Heyman's enforcers. And then Danny, we worked a lot of house shows, had great matches, as always. And then Danny tore his bicep, and then they replaced him with Derek Nykirk. And he and I worked together well. And then they just finally just said, we're done. He said, we're done with you. And I said, okay, sat at home for a little bit. And then I was trying to work on some new characters. That's when I started working on the magic character. And then it just didn't work. So, and then I got released.
How were you when you were at home mentally? How was that, not being on TV and waiting? How were you mentally, the mental side?
But when it's so weird, because I was in my 30s, early to mid 30s, and whenever with a signed under contract with a big company, and you want to be on TV, you want to work, you want to wrestle. That's what your passion is. That's what you love doing. And so sitting at home and watching everybody else, work and watching the show, and you're not on it, it was tough. It's like, man, I got to get back there. I need to think of something to get back there. But, also sitting at home, you're resting, not taking all that abuse to your body. So that was kind of nice too. But, and I lived in Tampa, Florida, so it wasn't bad living in a pretty good area. It was nice coming home, but still, mentally it's like, man, they don't have anything for me. I can't think of anything. Am I going to get released? How much longer do I have with the company? I've got to get myself back in there. I got to be relevant. So all that stuff was going through your mind when you're sitting at home too.
Then on to TNA. You had a brief time in TNA as well. You back with Danny and Christy Hemme. How was that? I know you weren't there that long, but just in terms of timeline and time frame, just the time in TNA that you had.
Well, it was very how we got to TNA is after we got released. I'll tell you the story about how I got my phone call to get released from WWE, because it ties in with TNA too. Mm-hmm. So I had come home. I came home from my grandparents' funeral, and so I was there, and I was staying with my dad's house in Indiana, and then I was getting into the car and heading to the funeral home, and Johnny Ace called me, and I do not envy that guy's job. And he probably had the worst job on the planet, having to call guys and release them, and knowing that this is all we want to do in our whole life, working for the biggest company. But he called me up and goes, hey Doug, it's Johnny Ace. Hey Johnny, what's going on? He goes, hey, how's things going? I said, well, they could be better. I'm home here in Indiana right now. I'm going to my grandpa's funeral. And he goes, oh God. And I said, yeah, what's going on? He goes, we have to let you go. And I was like, and there was like an awkward silence there for about 45 seconds. Nobody said it. Well, maybe not. It felt like 45 seconds, felt longer, but there was an awkward silence there for the longest time. And I think I come back and said, is this a rib? Are you ribbing me? He goes, no, we're not, buddy. And he kept it very short and very sweet and got off the phone as fast as he could because the timing was just horrible. And then after that, I said, okay, I guess I got 90 days to figure out where I want to go, what I want to do, The very next day, Jim Cornette calls me, Doug Basham, Jim Cornette, what are you doing? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. When's your 90 days up? He goes, when's your 90 days up? I go, I guess April 15th or whenever it was. I couldn't remember. He goes, all right, great. We're going to put you on. We're going to have you come to TNA. I'll give you details later. Okay, congratulations. You're out of there. So the very next day, we had a job or an opportunity with TNA. So that was pretty awesome that happened. And then we go down to TNA and, we try our luck there. We just didn't make the cut. And after that, Danny said he was about done with wrestling anyway. So he just kind of hung it up and went back to school and got his degree, got his master's.
Wow.
I'm like, I didn't know you had that in you, buddy. So he's got his master's degree and he was teaching. He went on to be a teacher and he taught autistic children. So kudos to Danny for doing that.
What a guy. Yeah. That's incredible.
Absolutely amazing guy. Yeah.
This is stuff we don't know. I'm a fan first and foremost. So to hear him do that, that's incredible. Yeah. Take wrestling out the equation. That's fantastic.
And then I went on to travel the world. I wanted to travel the world before I finally hung up the boots. Mm-hmm. So I went and traveled over in Europe and in Japan and in Britain, Ireland, just all over, Australia. And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years before I finally said, I was finished. I wanted to travel. So I did that. And then after that, I had to try to assimilate back into normal society and start another career because the bumps were starting to hurt more. The travel was getting more brutal. The money I was making was starting to go down a little bit. So it just wasn't worth it to me. And I was only 37, 38. So I didn't make Hulk Hogan money. I still had to work to make a living. So then I went into the medical sales field and started a new career.
I've got to ask you about, obviously, touring, coming over to Britain. Can you remember who you worked for, promotion-wise, promoters you worked for? Because I'm sure I'll know quite a few.
One promotion that I wanted, and one guy I wanted to work for was Dixon. I wanted to work for him, so
I had a funny feeling you'd bring up Brian Dixon.
Yep. I worked for Irish Whip. Guy, I worked for him quite a few times. Mm-hmm. Great group of guys there in Ireland. And then I came over. I cannot remember. I worked for I'm having brain fog. I worked for the other very popular family down there, over in Britain. Knights, yes. Gosh, yeah. I could not remember that. I caught COVID the end of April. And had that for a couple of weeks. And then ever since I've gotten better, one of the effects is like brain fog. And I can't, my mind is not as sharp yet, but it's getting better and better and better. So, let's see. There's just a slew of other promoters over there. I think I worked for just about every one of them at least once in England because I enjoyed England. I'd go overseas and I'd stay about 6 weeks and just stay busy doing the shows on the weekends. Whenever there may be a show, possibly like a lot of the camps or what they call holiday camps.
Yeah,
there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then doing a lot of seminars. I did a lot of seminars throughout the week at people's wrestling schools. So I stayed pretty busy.
How does the British crowd differ to the USA crowd, in your opinion? Any differences?
Oh yeah, there's more of them. more of them that go to the shows, and I think they really enjoy when like a foreigner, I guess you would call me, because I would have been someone from another country would come over, especially if you had been in the WWE or been in one of the big companies. I think they appreciated that more so than the American crowds here when you have somebody come over, because obviously the biggest promotion here is here in the United States. But I felt that. and everybody wanted to come up and take pictures and stuff like that, and just come and talk to you. It was very, very, very warm and welcoming whenever I could, whether I was whichever side of the fence I was performing that night. The crowds are great over there. Yeah, so I always enjoyed coming over to England.
That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear, man. Yeah, I can't wait to go back to shows. I've actually got a commentary gig on Monday, finally, after all this COVID. So yeah, it's my first entrance into the business. I am nervous, to say the least, but the promoter knows me quite well now through the podcast. So yes, I'm nervous. I think I'm on colour. So so just back to that. Just can't wait. I know it's the same over there. Shows being run fully. Everyone's just so. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the talent, because I know they've been chomping at the bit over here. They've had like 15, 16 months not being able to put on a show for the fans, man.
Well, right now, I may be getting a little ahead of your podcast and some of your questions. I'm currently, my life has went full circle, where I started at Ohio Valley. Actually, I was the first student, and I built OVW on these shoulders, basically, is what I'm going to say, even though there was other guys like Rob Conway, Nick Dinsmore, the Damage, and several others. But I was one of the first. So I started at OVW, built it, worked there, went to WWE, had my career there, and then had to go walk away from wrestling for a little bit, start a new career, medical sales. Now I'm back at OVW Wrestling, helping Al Snow. Al Snow had purchased OVW Wrestling from my Uncle Danny, because Danny wanted to retire. Now he's down in Florida, laying on a beach, getting tan and enjoying Mai Tais, I'm sure. So now I'm here at OVW, and as of right now, it's opened back up, and we're doing shows out, and we have 35 live house shows scheduled so far up to the end of September. Business is good. We have our own TV show that you can see on the Fight TV network. Yep. You can also, I think that's overseas is where you guys can watch the show. It's a 2-hour show. And I think this week, I made my very first appearance back on Ohio Valley Wrestling as one of the celebrity managers, that we're having a tournament for a Country Boy Kentucky heavyweight title, which is kind of like a TV champion title, so that we have created and developed. So a lot of good things are happening here in Ohio Valley Wrestling right now with Al Snow's Ohio Valley Wrestling. A lot of good stuff, a lot of big stuff happening. We hold pay-per-views also, which can be seen on, you can go to ovwrestling.com and find the link to watch our pay-per-views. I think our next pay-per-view is coming up June 26th, I believe. So, and basically in this pay-per-view, this is the first time we've done this, man. It's called Chain Carnage. And the main event, we have Cash Flow, who's our champion right now, against Omar Amir. And they're facing off together. And there's been a whole storyline developed between those two to lead up to this match, where we're taking down the ropes. Wow. And we're putting up chains. So you're going to have, instead of having rope, you're going to have 3 rows of chain, a big hard metal steel chain, and they're going to have a match in that. So pretty excited to see what's going to happen with that, because as far as OVW is concerned, it's the first time this has happened in OVW, and it's called Chain Carnage is the name of the pay-per-view. Don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be something to see. I will say that. Going
to be raucous for that one. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So pretty excited about that, and being back in OVW, helping Al Snow. I don't know if you've got more questions. I'm just gonna keep rolling with it.
Yeah, keep rolling.
Yeah. Help came back originally. How it happened was, I got a buddy who owns a restaurant over here close by my house, and I was in there one day. I get fan mail, and fans will send me some fan mail, and they'll send me pictures. Could you please sign this and send it back? So I'll sign the photos that they send, and then I'll mail it back to them if they have a self-addressed stamped envelope. There's a couple people that didn't send me an envelope. I'm sorry, guys, you have to send me a self-addressed envelope. put that out there. And I usually always send it back. And I appreciate the fan mail even to this day. Thank you. But I got this fan mail from a veteran, and he wrote in there, and it was a touching letter that he wrote. And I brought that to talk to one of the bartenders it's like a sports bar and grill place. Bartender's there because we were talking. He's a huge wrestling fan. And I was actually, this letter touched me. I was like, man, check out this letter and look at these pictures that he sent me. He wants me to sign. I've never seen these pictures before. And the owner of the restaurant was walking behind me at that time. And he goes, oh, hey, man, I took those pictures. And I looked and I was like, what? Well, really? He goes, no, I did. And then he introduced himself. I'm Greg. I own the place here. This is Harbor and Hops. Thank you. And he goes, yeah, you may or may not remember the time I took those pictures. And I said, oh, yeah. And then I said, yeah, I remember you, Greg. I remember. And then that was the start of me and Greg becoming really good friends again. Now we go golfing, we go eat at his restaurant, we go hang out. Now he also comes to OVW and helps take more photos for us. He does a really good job. So we sparked that relationship and that friendship again. And then, where was I going with the story?
It's all good.
Man, COVID. Pictures. Where was I going with this story, Stu?
Saying about your friendship with the owner of the restaurant.
Yes, friendship. There you go. And so that came with Al Snow. So he had these pictures. There you go. I got it. Come back to me. Al Snow, Greg had a whole bunch of pictures and wanted to know if Al wanted to use these pictures for the show or purchase them or something whatnot. So I called Uncle Danny. I said, hey, Danny, do you think Al would be interested in some of these pictures and all that? You think he would mind me calling him and just touching base with him? He goes, yeah, call him. He may. So I called up Al, talked to him for a minute, and he said, yeah, why don't you come to one of our TV tapings? At the time that was during COVID, and Kentucky is where they film their shows. That's where the Davis Arena is. So there was another place over in Indiana because Indiana had just opened up before Kentucky did. So they were filming their wrestling shows over at this other arena in Indiana. So I went to that because it's right next door to my house almost. So I went over there and talked to Al a little bit, and he goes, yeah, come on in. You come enjoy the show. Come back here and watch. You introduce yourself to the boys and stuff. So I did. Went down and introduced myself to the boys, watched the show. And then I had taken myself out of wrestling for the longest time because if I didn't take that part of my life and put it behind closed doors, I would have never been able to move on with another career in medical sales. So I had to just shut the door on that because wrestling is like, wrestling to a wrestler is like alcohol to an alcoholic or drugs to a person who's addicted. I mean, that's kind of gruesome to put it that way, but I have to explain it that way so you know just how addicting or how much wrestling, what it means to us guys like myself. So I had to take myself completely out of it, or I would not have been able to move on with my life. So this all happens and I go and watch the show, and then I leave the show and, I start going, I start getting that wrestler's itch again. Like, oh man. And then I go back the next week and then Al says, hey, would you like to help me with the guys with a couple of their matches and stuff? I go, oh yeah. And so by this time I'm full on, itching. And now we'll fast forward from I guess that was in last November, October, something like that. I think it was still kind of warm. So it may have been August, may have been September, the end of September. So now I am the head trainer at the Ohio Valley Wrestling School, Al Snow Wrestling Academy. I'm one of the agents for the Ohio Valley Wrestling TV show. I'm setting in and helping on production of writing the TV show. I'm helping produce some of the backstage vignettes and promos. So I'm all in. I am all in. So both feet. If it was water, I'm drowning.
That's
So
amazing.
That's kind of where I'm at now with Ohio Valley Wrestling. So my life has taken a full circle, and now started, and now I'm back at the end of my career, helping others reach their goals of becoming great big time superstars with one of the bigger companies, a bigger platform, WWE, AEW, whatever they want, because that's where the big money is. So that's where I'm at now, man, and that's what we're doing. And I'm really proud of the product that we're putting out there. The TV shows we're doing live. Our TV shows are live. They're not pre-recorded either. So people need to understand that. On Thursday nights, it's live. You see it on Fight TV, you're getting it live. It's happening right then and there, maybe a 3-second delay. And then I think it comes on Saturdays too. Some places, I don't know but if you get on the Fight TV network, the Fight TV app for your phone, you can watch episodes whenever you want. And if you do watch this week's episode, you'll see yours truly on there, help managing one of the wrestlers. So haven't been on TV, wrestling TV, since 2007, I think. So that's just a little plug for myself.
You're wearing many hats and spinning many plates at OVW, Doug.
Absolutely. And helping the product, and the product's getting better. We got quite a few. Look, Ohio Valley Wrestling, for all your fans, for all your base out there listening, go watch Ohio Valley Wrestling, because you're going to see some future. You are going to see future stars of tomorrow. We got some good guys there that are ready to move up anytime, and that are almost ready to move up anytime. We got a lot of good talent there, man.
What would be some tips for guys getting into the industry? What would be your tips, your veteran tips?
Don't do it. Yeah. I mean, who wants to get into a profession where you willingly beat yourself up, willingly don't make any money starting out, willingly happen to get in the gym, and willingly having to eat perfect all the time to have that look, that $1 million body, because first impressions say a lot in this business. So who wants to eat chicken and rice their whole life? So don't do it. That's my advice.
I didn't think you were going to say that, but there we go. There we go.
No, but on a serious note, if you really do want to get into professional wrestling, my advice is make sure you find a good accredited school or trainer. That is the most important, to get a good base, because if you're coming from ground zero and you don't know anything about it, you just think you know about it. There's people out there that could just see that and just take your money and not train you well. So I would plug the Al Snow Wrestling Academy. You're going to get good training there. Ohio Valley Wrestling, you're going to get excellent training there. And there is a whole slew of other schools and other trainers out there that are really good and reputable. So just be picky, or be careful, and do your due diligence on who you go and get trained by, because getting that base knowledge is super important, because that sets the stage for the rest of what you're going to learn in the rest of your career. It's where it starts. So, and watch wrestling, watch it.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, Doug. Thank you very much for that. Doug, where can the fans, viewers, listeners find you in terms of social media?
I only have a Facebook page. I'm getting ready to possibly start up an Instagram page, only because I'm back in Ohio Valley Wrestling again, and people are asking me this question: where can I find you? I stayed away and stayed private for the longest time, because again, I was trying to start a whole nother career, and if I got myself back into wrestling, it probably wouldn't have happened. But now that I'm back in, people will be able to follow me off my Facebook page, and they'll be able to find my Instagram. I don't know if I'm going to go to Twitter or not. It's just too much work, and I'm not a real big social media keeping up with all that stuff, So, but I'll do the best I can, probably with Instagram, because I think Facebook owns that. So it's kind of tied into each other. And once that's up, you'll be able to see where to find me I'll put it on my Facebook page. And if you ask to be a friend on Facebook, just give me some time to go through it. I've got thousands of requests that I try to go through every day and accept as many as I can, just so everybody can see what I've been doing and see who I am a little bit on Facebook. But just be patient with me, please.
I've requested you.
Oh, I accept yet?
not yet, but you are busy, so it's understandable, man.
I'll get there.
Absolutely, of course, it's understandable. We've got so much going on. My guest, all the way from Indiana, it is former two-time WWE Tag Team Champion as one half of the Basham Brothers in WWE, former TNA talent. You're now a head trainer, agent, manager in OVW. It's gone full circle career. Mr. Doug Basham, my guest today on Stu's Wrestling Podcast. What a career Doug has had in wrestling. He was away from wrestling for so long, and lo and behold, it goes full circle. He's back in OVW. He's back with Al Snow, and it's just what a story, and fantastic, that quest getting to WWE. A two-time tag team champion as one half of the Basham Brothers too. He achieved so much in his career, and it just goes to show it took 10 years, but once he was there, he was there. A big thank you to Powered4.tv for all their support with the show. Rich and John have been fantastic. I've got my other show, which is MMA and boxing, Big Fight Weekly, Power4.tv, Big Fight Weekly with my cousin Chris. We do that every week. We're on to episode 18, so check that out if you fancy something a bit different away from wrestling. I've really enjoyed it. We've got lots and lots to come up, some big fights in boxing and in the UFC and across MMA, so look forward to that. Thank you to Chris Dutton again, editing this. Superb job as always. Mike Angus for the intro, and Evade Escape for their track Already Know, that you heard at the start and you're hearing now in the background. And we'll see you soon for another episode of Stu's Wrestling Podcast.